Hello, welcome to Geek Warning, the podcast that puts the world's most interesting cycling tech and more into one place. I'm Dave Rome, Senior Tech Editor for Escape Collective, and a small team this week. Who's with me?
I'm Ronan McLaughlin, Senior Tech Editor at Escape Collective.
Ronan, how are you doing?
I'm good, yeah. Early morning, so I'm recording from the workshop.
Okay, yeah, we've caught you very early. It's 6:30 in the morning, so how many hours of tyre testing have you done today?
Oh, just a few so far, just keeping it light this morning.
Okay. Yeah, great. And somehow 24 hours of more testing to do after we record this. So,
But believe it or not, I started getting results yesterday.
oh, okay. Interesting. That worries me about the month of testing that you'd managed prior to that. But
Yeah.
anyway, good. One that remains in progress, and no doubt one to keep an eye out for. But anyway, so yeah, I guess with that, if you've been doing some promising testing, then I guess the bike that you'd formerly have called a Colnago gravel bike was the one you last rode, right?
No, well, actually, as we'll get onto in this episode, with the new Zipp wheels that have been announced, I've been back on a road bike doing some bigger road miles. I've also got signed up for a bike packing event next month, so trying to get some endurance in the legs before then.
Cool.
So yeah, back on a road bike.
Nice. Okay. I've been largely rained out, but the last bike I rode, more mountain bikes. Been playing with some things that we'll also get into this episode. Playing with some things on a Cannondale Scalpel that I'd previously reviewed and they haven't picked up yet, so I've been installing all other test parts on it. But we'll cover something interesting on that bike at the moment that should be published by the time you're all listening to this. All right, well, this week, Ronan mentioned it. There's new wheels from Zipp that we'll get into. We're actually going to finish the episode with those because there's some things that Ronan has spent a long time thinking about that we're going to make exclusive to our members right before we get into the Ask a Wrench. So stay tuned for a bit of a highlight of those new wheels, and then we'll dive a bit deeper at the end.
Basically, I had to give up a week going to America to find out about these. I had to sit in a room and ask some nice people some very, very awkward questions. And then I had to spend another week writing up whether or not those people were able to convince me that hookless is actually the future. And so, if you're not a paying member, that part is for paying members.
Yeah, I guess, the harsher way of saying that is 2 weeks of your time shouldn't be given away for free.
Yes, that is exactly the way we should look at it.
Yes. Anyway, so, there's that news. There's a bunch of other tech news that we'll get to towards the end of the episode, which is worth staying tuned for. We've also got the things on our mind. I just teased it. There's one thing I've been testing that's been heavily on my mind, which I think is really cool. I've also been reflecting a lot about modern chains and how good things are. So we talk about that. Of course, we've got a PSA, and we will finish with Ask a Wrench and the return of Brad Copeland for that one. So plenty to get into. But Ronan, I think before we get into what's been on our minds, bit of a corrections corner from last week. We spoke about wheel top and its derailleur that can handle 14 speed, and you asked the question of, is anyone actually doing a 14 speed cassette? And we then joked that they were just planning for the future, but alas and unfortunately the future is already here. Sensor and Sunshine, they've collaborated, two Chinese manufacturers, they've collaborated on a 1x14 speed cassette, 11 to 46 tooth, works on an HD body, thanks to Kuhn for sharing a link to a Trace Velo YouTube video that showed that at a recent Chinese trade show. But the future is in the past. I wasn't thrilled to see this news.
Yeah, but you were already giving out about the move to 13 speed, so no surprises there.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, there you go. I think it's time to move to something that's been on our minds. Ronan, I've been quietly testing, and I mean that figuratively and literally speaking, quietly testing a hub upgrade that goes into any hub using DT Swiss internals, whether they be Star Ratchet or Ratchet EXP. It's a lot of hubs on the market that use those internals, including most of DT Swiss's. And I've been playing with this for about 6 months now. I haven't really said much because I didn't really want to give it away to everyone. But it's pretty cool. It's from an Aussie company called Williams Racing Products. They've made quite the splash in the mountain bike world, specifically in like the downhill sort of gravity space. They've got all sorts of cool stuff there. They've got they've had their whole bike under the Trinity mountain bike project. They've also been playing with like a derailleur and a can type gearbox that they've made. I've covered the brand over the years, but it's this little hub upgrade that I think is perhaps the most impactful from the brand, because it is something that you can put into so many existing wheels, whether it be road wheels or if they're on a gravel bike or mountain bike. And this little upgrade has won a downhill World Cup round already last year, the last round under Troy Brosnan. He DT Swiss sponsored athlete, but you could tell that he's running these because his hubs were silent, and normally DT Swiss hubs make a ratcheting sound. And yeah, basically what it is it's a little kit that you remove the ratchet rings of the DT Swiss, and you put in this little kit, and it creates a system that wholly disengages when you stop pedaling. And yeah, basically your clicks disappear. You now have a silent hub, but most importantly, with no clicks, those clicks are actually friction. So you're removing all coasting drag, and at that point, your rear hub is effectively as efficient as a front hub.
Noise is energy, right?
Noise is energy, generally speaking. And this one, I did some controlled testing. I didn't want to do roll down testing just because that's fraught with issues. So I literally just did like in a stand testing where I used a speed sensor, sort of sped the wheel up to a controlled 25 kilometers per hour until it was stable, and then I let it just basically roll down with no weight on it. And I did it repeated times, and I got very consistent results doing this. In a standard 350 hub with just stock standard, nothing real special about it, on a mountain bike, that hub would spin for 40 seconds. But with this ratchet upgrade, it was spinning for a minute 40, which I think is enough to say that there's something here.
Yeah, I'm gonna look forward to reading that. But on the face of it, that's an alarming difference.
Yeah, so identical bearings, identical hub. The only thing changing was the ratchet system inside.
The DT and are famously loud. Quite often, when I've ridden DT wheels, I have had people ride alongside me and ask me if there was a problem with my wheels.
It's funny because the video I put of this system on Instagram teasing it, people asked me how I broke it because it wasn't making the right noise.
Oh, I remember you showed this to me it must have been after a meeting or after a podcast recording about 6 months ago, when you spun it and I was like, you thought I didn't get it, but I was just that shocked. I was like, what's happening here? I'm supposed to be hearing. I thought Google was cutting out the noise or something.
Yeah, it does seem like that. Yeah. So they're notoriously loud, and I think it's probably most recently you've ridden the Ratchet EXP system, which was even louder than the original Star Ratchet system, quite obnoxiously so. So yeah, that's definitely a huge benefit for anyone with those wheels that hates the noise.
Which some people like.
Some people like, most people don't. But yeah, so that will turn these hubs silent, and then there's the coasting benefit as well, the drag benefit. So I think it's a cool invention, and cool enough that I actually spent enough time on it to properly review it, properly test it, and spend some real time writing it up. So do head to Escape Collective, check this thing out. I think it's a really cool product. It's not even middle of the year, and I think this is going to almost certainly be in one of my favorite products of the year list. So it's neat. If
you are one of those people who like the loud free hub, ask yourself if others that you ride with like it.
Yeah. Just keep pedaling if someone's trying to have a conversation with you. So cool, fun little product that. All right, let's move on to something else. And again, I don't know what made me do this, but this week I've been reminiscing a bunch about how good modern bikes have gotten. I think it might have been a tubeless install I recently did, where everything went smoothly. There was no mess. It just popped into place. The beating was solid and secure sounding without scaring me. It just all went together very nicely, and that feels to me to be more often the case than not these days when doing tubeless installs. And I started remembering back in the day, 10, 15, even 20 years ago, how infuriating it could be, and even unsafe at times. And yeah, I just started to think things are pretty good for modern bikes, and perhaps the best example I can give is in the chain. Chains have gotten damn expensive, but my goodness, they're good now. Like I don't know about you, but like I remember 9-speed days being on the bike 5-6 times a week and having to replace my chain every 3 months. And it would be toast. Like it'd just be worn through. And nowadays, for some people, the chain is almost like if it's kept properly, it can be a permanent fixture of the bike before they sell it, until they sell it. You know, you can get with the right chain and the right lubrication, it is possible to get 15,000 or more kilometers out of a chain. So
I wonder, Dave, if you expand beyond your care and maintenance program, and probably beyond our audience as well, if you get similar results, or if the mileage may vary out there. I don't think.
I mean, there's a lot of
maintaining their chains as quite as well as it is required to get the
correct
longevity you're talking about here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people on what should be very durable drivetrains, very expensive modern chains, like 11, 12-speed generation I'm talking about, that are ripping through them because they're just using awful chain loops or nothing at all, and treating that bike like trash. And yeah, I guess that was the counterpoint of that is chains have gotten really durable, but I think the biggest advancements have actually been in like knowledge and the quality of like lubricants that we have available to us now. And I think that has really come up in the last 3 to 5 years.
Do you know, or I'm sure you've probably looked into it, like if you took one of those 9-speed chains from 20 years ago and give it the full wax treatment and properly maintained it, how much more durable would it have been? Would we have seen any extra life out of it?
Ronan, it's funny you ask that because back at Cycling Tips, I collaborated with Zero Friction Cycling, Adam Kieran, on that. And he did controlled wear testing on this using a controlled lubricant as a wear accelerator, and basically did this exact test on my request, which was he tested top end chains from 12, 11, 10, 9, and 8 speed throughout Shimano's range, and each speed you add has a fairly distinct step up in terms of durability in a controlled setting. So even if you did wax like a 9-speed chain, it's still not going to last nearly as long as these newer 12-speed chains would. So,
which is kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? You'd think that the older, wider, heavier chains would have had more durability, but not the case, you're saying?
Yeah, correct. It comes down to, they changed the tech and the way the rollers and inner plates interface and how much wear is put on the pin. The newer chains really disperse the wear better across the components of the chain. They're also made of significantly better materials, much harder steels, with much lower friction coating. So I'd say in theory, if they made like a 9-speed chain to modern 12-speed standards with all the latest and greatest tech, then perhaps we'd see those results sway. But yeah, as far as product that you can actually buy, I think it stands true that in a controlled setting, I'm looking at it like 12-speed chain lasts approximately twice as long as a 9-speed chain would. But yeah, I mean, I do think lubrication is the big winner here, and I think we champion it a lot on this podcast. But I think for most people, it's the one thing people can do themselves that will save them real money and make a real difference to the function of their bike. And yet again, I feel like it's been a few months since I've been on this rant, so I figured this is a good enough time to do it again. But if you're not paying attention to chain lube and you think it's all rubbish and you just use the same old chain lube you've always used, you're wasting money. You're just pissing it away. It really, there's enough science now about this that for the cost of a $20-$25 bottle of chain lube, you can just do so much better and really extend the life of your drivetrain. Yes, the science says wax is superior, but it also doesn't have to be wax. There's some pretty solidly good oil-based lubes that we've covered before. Silca Synergetic is one that constantly pops into my mind, but they're not alone in the space. And time again, they're just proven to go much further and do so with much less friction and much less drivetrain wear than a lot of other more mainstream lubes. So I'd say, yeah, I mean, not to name names, but if you're using like anything old, like an old Finish Line drip lube, or you're using a Muck Off or
You said you
a
weren't
White
going to name
Lightning
names.
or any of these classic. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm definitely going to name names. So yeah, if you're using any of these classic brands that sort of ruled the roost 10 years ago and are still what a lot of bike shops stock, yeah, just consider stopping it, because it's just there's a lot of better options out there that'll make your cycling and make your bicycle happier.
I'm about to try Synergetic for the first time. Been meaning to get it for a
Oh,
long,
why
long
not?
time. So looking forward to getting some experience.
Why going back? I know you're a wax user, so why are you going back to oil?
Because I mentioned earlier in the show I'm doing a bikepacking event, and while I plan to ride with a wax chain, I don't yet know what the weather conditions are going to be. And even with good weather conditions, it's 2,500 kilometers, and so yeah, the wax that I leave home with isn't that going to do that full trip.
Yeah.
Although there's a couple of other things happening there. Yeah, the Synergetic is in case I get wet conditions on a wax chain.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you'll mess up your wax chain, but you'll still get through.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a problem for 6 months after when I've fully recovered.
It's a future Ronin problem.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So yeah, I think before we move on from this topic, I think a common issue I keep seeing of people, I guess, new to chain wax, to drip on wax, is they tend to over apply it and not clean up the previous stuff. So general rule of thumb is wipe down your chain before relubing it, regardless of what's on it. And yeah, just remember to wipe down those pulley wheels as well, because they get gunky, especially with a drip on wax lube. So wipe everything down with a microfiber cloth or your old underpants, and then just reapply, let it set, and that's a good rule for wax users. But yeah, if you're on an oil-based chain, your chain will be a lot happier if you keep it clean before you reapply lube. All right, I feel like that's a topic we beat to death 6 months ago, and we've come back just to poke it a little bit. So I won't dwell too much longer on that. I think it's time to move on to our PSA for the week. Ronan, I think you've added this PSA, so what is it?
Yeah, it's based on a bit of advice I've been given, and that's to not pull off the vent spews or those little hairs on the side of vulcanized tires, because pulling them off, especially on very thin sidewall tires, can lead to air loss at the spot at that spot where you pulled the hair from on the casing. So yeah, just like hairs elsewhere, don't pull them off. Use like nail clippers or something to snip them. But Dave, I don't know if you actually included this bit of a PSA in your article on.
I actually did. I did. I did an article on this very topic just a few weeks ago. A whole thing about tire hairs and what they're for and why they exist, and whether they actually impact performance, and then how to remove them if you so wish. And the most efficient way is with like a trimmer, like a beard trimmer or similar, something that doesn't have like excessive skin protection in it is better. So clippers are a really effective way to do it. But yeah, you can use hand tools like little flash cutters or nail clippers, or any sort of sharp object that is designed for cutting these things will do it if you've got patience. But for most people, just leave them on, because they're not really hurting too much unless they're contacting the frame. So
just for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, it's the little, like if you buy a brand new tire, you've got like little hairs sticking out from where it's come out of the mold. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm currently riding the Goodyear Vector R Z30 NSW tires, which is part of the wheel system we're about to get onto. And they, a lot of the time these vent spews will be like around the center of the channel or the tread, whereas on Goodyear tires it's very much like on the sidewall almost, or at least on the shoulder between. Yes. And as I watched them spin around over the last couple of weeks, I've been like constantly wondering to myself, could I just take a Mach 3 and just reach down while the front tire is rotating and just gone?
Probably.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this far too much, and I think it would like dig in too much. Like you'd hit one bump in
Yeah,
the road.
I wouldn't recommend a razor. You want an electric shaver. But but yes, to go back to your point, it definitely was mentioned. This PSA was mentioned within the article of how to remove them. It starts with the most important tip and a word of warning is not to pull them off. Plucking isn't just painful for the tire, it can cause damage to the rubber you've just paid good money for.
Do vent spews come back twice as bad? Like if you pull...
If you shave them. I haven't found that to be the case, but I mean, maybe tires are different in Ireland.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you tend to water your tires more than we do over here, so it's possible. All right, well, yeah, there's a bit of tech news to get through. It does feel like everyone's getting busy again with new bikes and accessories coming out all the time. I think it's, we're sitting in between trade show season at the moment. Eurobike isn't that far away at this point. But yeah, there is some fun news. So Waterford and Gunnar, they're two sort of iconic steel manufacturing names within the US scene. They are both back. They've been, the names and the IP have been acquired by Abracadabra Fabrications out of Durango, Colorado. So yeah, they're really just the names and the designs. I wouldn't expect don't expect the big buildings and the long assembly lines to come back. But it is cool to see these two names continue, and they'll be bringing back some of the more iconic designs and models in the near future. So cool little one for those that have been around the scene for a little while. Next on the list, Standert. Brand we've discussed a little bit lately because Suvi's been reviewing one of their gravel bikes. They have updated their alloy road racer, the Cressage RS. I 100% butchered that name. I apologize. But it's a Dedichai scandium alloy frame. And you just don't see scandium alloy in use that much. I've got a special soft spot for it. And yeah, this frame, UDH, 35mm tire clearance, aero-shaped tubing, frame sets for 2,000 US. Looks like a really nice bike. Looks like something that would compete with, say, like a Specialized Allay Sprint, but perhaps a little bit more Gucci and a little bit fancier. Rowan, have you seen this thing?
Prisega RS.
Yep.
Prisega.
Yep, not what I said.
Which I only know that because it was spelled out to me.
Gotcha. I can't even remember what I called it.
I think you called it exactly what I would have called it had I not had it spelled out to me. So
okay.
Yep. Have seen this bike. I haven't really delved into it in all that much detail. I've just been so busy over the last week or two, but it looks nice.
Are you like Kaylee and I that we both have like a special spot for aluminium road bikes for no real reason other than nostalgia and once upon a time them being cheap?
I'm not really there now.
Yeah, okay. Why?
I don't know. I just, I guess I've never had a good one to really be able to build that affinity for it. And so... Yeah,
okay. Yep.
Perhaps, if I did try something like a Standert or something, perhaps that would swing me and I would love it. But not right. No, I have no opposition to the concept. I just, I've never been there myself.
Yeah, okay. So basically you need to talk to 17-year-old Ronan and get him onto a I'm trying to think what it would have been back then, maybe a CAD 4.
The thing that confuses me though is that Kaylee's younger than me. I don't know, maybe you're younger than me too, Dave, but so if anything it should be me that has this affinity for older technology, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's nice to see these frames. Obviously not for everyone. Obviously it's not a value pick either at €2,000, but I still personally own a scandium frame, and there's something when they're done well. There's a nice sort of light whippy feeling about some of those frames. Not the stiffest things in history, but definitely some nice tubing. So, speaking of Italian-made things, Pirelli have a new tire, which I think is kind of interesting, not from a performance point of view, but just from a riding bikes point of view. The Cinturato Evo. Cinturato. I think that's how you say it. You have to say it with an Italian accent, I believe. The Evo, and it's a new endurance road tire in sizes 28 through to 55 millimeter.
What is going on?
Blows my mind a bit. Yep. I think this sort of feeds into something you'd previously covered, Ronan, with their Pirelli's partnership with is it FCS FSC
FSC,
FSC
the Forest Stewardship
sustainable Council. Sustainable sourcing of rubber. This tire is more bio-based material and more recycled content than I believe any other Pirelli tire before it. So more than 50% of the tire is sort of eco-friendly. So I think it's a cool trend, but most importantly, that width range is just nuts. Not light, looking about 490 grams for a 700 by 40 mil road tire. But yeah, I'd say if I weren't a remote working bum, then this is probably the sort of tire I'd be putting on my commuter.
Yeah, I'm confused.
Why are you confused?
It's just a 55 millimeter road tire. Like that's a 2.4 if we're talking mountain bike terms. The whole world has been talking about whether or not mountain bike tires are faster for gravel, and I'm not saying this is a faster tire, but all of a sudden Pirelli have turned up with a road going version of that width. It just, I'm with you.
Is this jumping the shark?
No, I just think commuter is the only place where I see a tire like this having a home. Just like, I don't think you make this for the fun of it if you're Pirelli, and I don't think you make this cheaply either. Like you don't just rattle out a new tire width on a whim and a prayer. So I'm just like, why 55?
Yep. I don't know. I think at a certain point, if you've got enough casing, you almost don't need tread. So you could probably commute on, say you had like an old 29er mountain bike hardtail, you could probably put this tire onto that and still do some light off-road riding despite it not having any tread. I think, I don't know. I think it's a niche application, but I could see it being used on some trekking bikes. I could see it being used on certainly some sort of more commuter style e-bikes that have the tire clearance, and perhaps, you've got a motor. I could see it being used on some mountain bikes as well to give them a bit more of a road purpose. But it's niche, but either way, yeah.
I don't have a frame that this would fit in, but it kind of is just like a cool idea. I want to see what it looks like. But the difference being that I could call in that tire for review and I wouldn't have to pay for it. But you, the paying audience, is this attractive enough that do you want this tire? I want to know.
Yep. Either way, I dare say it's the first road leaning tire it's being offered in sizes from 28 through to 55 mil. So they've,
I think you're pretty safe in saying
they're the first to that. Yeah. Someone, I'm sure we'll have a corrections corner about this for some reason. But anyway, someone will point out like a tire model in the CST tire range or something like that. But anyway, it's interesting for me. I think,
perhaps one to save for an on your mind, but I do always get slightly confused also just by like this tire is presumably this is a not Pirelli's fastest tire, probably one of the slower road offerings that they offer.
Yes,
but that always confused me because such tires are almost always marketed as endurance tires, and just my brain struggles with that because I'm like, well, if you're riding endurance and you're going that far, do you not want the tire with the least resistance, not the tire with the most resistance?
Yep.
But yeah, anyway,
it's a good point. Yep. So anyway, once again, the term endurance is linked to something that is inevitably going to be slower. But I still think it's interesting. I still think something in like maybe in the more 700 by 40 mil size will be very popular for people with gravel bikes that they want to commute on, because it is going to be a much more durable and hardy version than the P0 that was previously available on a 40 mil tire. So
that's kind of my confusion here is like the whole range. I get the tire. I understand why the tire exists. I'm just wondering why add in the 55 option? Like, why did we decide? And heck, why did we even stop there? Why didn't we just keep going? Why didn't we 60 at that point?
I mean, it'll be interesting to hear from Pirelli on this, but I can't help but think maybe it's just a test, right? Put it out there. I know there's cost in this, but put it out there and see the demand and whether whether there is scope in the market for such a big thing. I am thinking back. I'm thinking I had my previous e-bike was a commuter sort of road going e-bike, but it was basically roughly based around a mountain bike frame and mountain bike fork. And I'm thinking that bike had a tire pretty similar to that. It was probably like a 29 by 2.1, 2.2 slick. And yeah, I could see this sort of filling that gap quite nicely, being a replacement for that. So yeah, anyway, I think there is a market for these, but I don't know, maybe Pirelli might find themselves in this odd space where they've made a tire that's a little bit too road leaning, a bit, maybe perhaps even a little bit too performance leaning for where people actually want that tire.
Yeah, the cynical part of me was like, is this just jumping on the hype train? And kind of like they brought out the P0 TLR 40mm last year, and that was confusing also because it was a gravel width effectively, but it was a road performance tire. So if you went into gravel, you were going to have problems pretty quickly. But for one reason and another, that sort of took off, and I'm kind of just wondering if Pirelli's like, oh well, if you build it, they'll come. So here's a 55mm Cinturato. Potentially,
yep. Yeah. Anyway, I think we've spoken about that one for long enough, but yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see where the demand is in this particular model. Interesting nonetheless. So, but yeah, as Ronan asked, do get into the comments. Let us know if this makes sense to you. All right, next on the list, I did talk about how good chain lubes are getting, and that's why I've added this one to the list, which is Rex, the company out of Finland. They come from a background of as a ski wax specialist, so they've sort of been playing with waxes longer than most. They got into bicycle chain waxes a few years back, and they've spent those years developing a drip-on wax, and they've finally released it. It's called Black Magik, and yeah, it's a water-based emulsion wax. They're basically claiming it's got their 11+1 black diamond hot melt wax. It's basically the same ingredients, same base waxes as that, but they've managed to emulsify it into a drip-on wax, and haven't used it yet. We are expecting to get our hands on some of it soon, but sounds pretty promising. I mean, they definitely have done their research. I actually reached out to Zero Friction Cycling about this, asking because I had a feeling they'd done some testing, and I was basically told, I wasn't given any data on this, but basically told something along the lines of that Rex occupies some of their test facilities more than any other brand. Like they invest in testing pretty much more than anyone else in terms of durability and resistance to contamination and all that. So they really put the effort in here. So I think it's one to watch out for. It sounds promising, and the hot melt wax has been proving to be pretty good lately. So more to come.
Are things starting to get a little bit confusing, Dave? What's the difference between a drip wax and a hot melt wax drip?
Yeah, I think they're two separate things. So you've got a drip wax, and then you've got hot melt. What we're starting to see, though, and where it's getting confusing, is that we've got some chain lubes coming into the market that are drip waxes, but they're basically managed to put the same ingredients of the hot melt wax into a state that allows it to be a liquid that you can pour onto the chain, and then it evaporates and basically puts the wax in place. It won't be as good as a hot melt wax, just because of the way the lube has to penetrate the chain link and various other reasons, but yeah, it gets most of the way there, and yeah, shares basically many of the same ingredients. But yeah, two things: drip wax and hot melt. Hot melt, you need to melt and then take the chain off the bike, put the chain into, and a drip wax just goes on just like any sort of traditional chain lube.
Drip, you drop. I know. Hot melt.
Yep.
You don't.
You dip.
You dip. You dip. Yes.
A drip, you drop, and a hot melt, you dip.
We are not marketeers.
As clear as a friction modified wax, which is to say you can't see through it. All right, this is Geek Warning after all. I apologize to everyone for that. Speaking of maintenance products, Silca is a company that sort of I guess springs to mind whenever you start talking about chain lubes and degreasers and all that, and they've got a growing range, and surprisingly they until now didn't have a grease in the range. So they've added the synergetic race grease, and I did some sleuthing and tried to figure out what this grease actually was and whether it was repackaged and all that, and came across some products that were similar, and yeah, so reaching out to Josh Portner, got back to me. He said it probably is similar to some very high performance greases that I'd found, but not identical. But for me, what I guess in my research, what I found was that the waxes that have the same properties and that I thought were the same are actually vastly more expensive to purchase than the Silca stuff. So the Silca stuff is $25 for 95 grams, comes in a tube, and the stuff that I thought was the same is almost 30-40% more in expense and goes up from there. So not a bad value way to get a real high performance seaming grease.
What I want to know is the almost 1 kilogram 20-year supply of Motor X grease that I just bought. Was that a waste? Was that a waste of money? Should I have waited for
no
the Silca that I didn't know was coming?
Motor X bike grease, very, very, very similar to like Shimano special grease is actually my go-to, and it's the one I recommend, and it's the one I reach for most, and I still recommend it. The Silca grease sounds promising. It's kind of an all-rounder grease. It comes with claims of being more efficient and less drag, but those claims are also not compared to Silca's not mentioning what they're comparing it against. The other thing that I think fundamentally will be an issue for me with the Silca grease is that it's black in color. So it doesn't have dyes. It's actually the tungsten disulfide that's making it that color. But it's for me, I actually like the light color of like that Motor X grease because you can see when it's contaminated.
Mine's is contaminated with a cotton bud.
Ronan's showing me his tub of grease, which I'll remind him again that we're on a podcast. But
that's for your benefit.
Anyway, for those keen on Silca products, there's now a grease for you. But I think the black color is one that I need to test out. But I personally prefer lighter color greases just so you can see how the sealing of a product is behaving and whether you need to do more frequent maintenance. Cool. All right. All of that chat gets us to the big news of the week, which is Zipp's new wheels. Ronan, we previously teased before, you spent roughly 2 weeks of your life on learning, riding, experiencing these things. Before we get to the stuff that I think we feel is worth keeping just for our members, can you give us some highlights of what these wheels are?
Yeah, which I mean is actually also my job. The point is,
but it's only a job because of members.
If I do my job and we don't get paid for it, then I don't get paid, and it is no longer my job. And so this no longer exists, to put it pretty bluntly. And we can skip the promotion for Skip Collective in this week's podcast because I think that has already done it. Anyway,
sure.
New Zipp wheels. There is quite a lot of new with Zipp, and the headline is the new 353 NSW, which replaces the existing 353 NSW. It's a new rim. It has a tire pressure sensor built into a cavity in the rim. It is removable, so if there was, for whatever reason you needed to remove it, that can be done. It's not actually, it's in a cavity in the rim, is what I'm trying to say. There's also a new ZR1 SL hub, which replaces the Cognition hub. There are new tyres from Goodyear to go with that rim as a fitment series, as they're referring to it as. And there is also a new 303 SW. It's basically a updated and renamed version of the existing 303S. And similar story there. It's getting a tire pressure sensor. It's getting new hubs. It's got a new tyre from Goodyear. And what do you want to know?
Yeah, I've read through the press release, and I guess I came away a little bit unexcited by this release. The 353 NSW, correct me if I'm wrong, is shallower than before, not lighter, same width, now with a built-in pressure sensor. Like, I don't know, I'm just kind of left wondering, like, why, like, does this deserve, I don't know. Like, Zipp's a huge company, a long history of being very innovative. It's backed by SRAM, which is another very innovative company, and I just, for me, I'm looking at the weights of these wheels and the reduced depth, I'm kind of wondering like whether they've lost their position with this product.
Would like to answer that, Dave. But one, I'm also slightly confused. Again, kind of the theme of this podcast. And two, I think that very much falls into the conversation we're going to have for the members only part of this podcast.
All right.
just one other bit of news, and that is that Zipp has also updated the existing 454 NSW and the 858 NSW. The rims remain identical as they were. There are no tire pressure sensors on those rims, but what has changed is the hubs that you get within those wheel sets now, and that going forward will be the new ZR1 SL hub that I mentioned earlier.
What is that hub? I don't know if you've pulled open the free hub body.
The hub, Dave, is the thing that holds the spokes to the rim. It's in the middle of the wheel.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Okay, now that you've explained that, what's inside? What's the mechanism inside of it?
That's a key change here, Dave, because they've got rid of the axial clutch and the cognition, and now it's 6 balls with 66 points of engagement. And so
so much more traditional in design.
Yeah, and then there are other updates with the hub also. They're said to be 30 grams lighter than the previous hubs in the 353 NSW. But also, interestingly, I think, is that when built into these new wheels from Zipp, these new Zipp hubs come with ceramic bearings, which is a bit of a... I don't think U-turn is the right term to use, but ceramic bearings were dropped from the 353 NSWs last time around when they were updated, and now they're brought back in.
The only other question I have is, before we move on to more things, the previous 353 NSWs that I'd tested surprisingly had J-bend spokes, which I thought was a bit different compared to other high-end wheels. At the time, Zipp said it's largely just that there's no real benefit one way or the other, and that they basically just picked the one that was more easily serviceable when you're out on the road and perhaps, need to get access to spare spokes. What have they done?
Well, J-bend.
Still J-bend. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've got no hard feelings one way or the other on that one. I was just curious. All right, another one on the list comes from Wolftooth. They actually have 2 new products. One came out a week ago, and then there's another one that just came out a day ago. First up, they have joined the party as far as Schwalbe, still can't pronounce it, Schwalbe's Clik valve system, which got released at Eurobike last year. It's sort of an alternative to the Presta valve. They're trying to make it become a new standard of valve. I have discussed it in Ask a Wrench a few weeks ago. It is something I'm reviewing at the moment. But yeah, Wolftooth have joined the list of brands to support it. They're the first to market with coloured tubeless valve stems that are Clik compatible. And they've also gone ahead and updated or released a new head for their range of N-case mini pumps. So yeah, if you've got one of their mini pumps currently, you can just buy a new head that is native to the Clik valve, or you can in future just buy the pump with that valve. Anyway, as a quick recap, the Clik valve, it's something you can take the valve core out on a Presta valve and put in the Clik system as a valve core. You can also do the same to Schrader valves and Dunlop valves, and at least as far as the Presta valve goes, you can still inflate it with a Presta pump head. But yeah, I'll get more into that in future in a review. Also new, from Wolftooth, bottom brackets. So they didn't previously have bottom brackets, now they do, which is getting close to completing the lineup of things with bearings. They still don't have hubs. But I think it's interesting. They currently only have threaded bottom brackets, so they just do BSA, which is English, and then they do a T47 internal. That's it in the lineup. They are available in just a more limited range of colors than what they normally offer, such as black, silver, I believe there's orange and purple as well. They're designed to work with 24, 29, and 30 millimeter crank spindles. So some nice details in these. They've got custom bearings that are hardened chrome steel, which they claim are more durable, quieter, and smoother than more commonly used stainless steel. And they back them with a lifetime warranty, which is pretty cool. And then, like something we've discussed a few times on the podcast now, predominantly in Ask a Wrench, these do use like a polymer hat that sits between the crank and the bearing. So, likely to greatly reduce the chance of creaking in these. Wolftooth also claiming they're one of the lighter options out there, which I think is quite neat. Limited options as mentioned, but they have adjustable sleeves, so they'll work in various different common widths of frame, and expect to pay about $130 US for the English threaded version, or $140 US for the T47 internal. So I actually think they're pretty competitively priced, given it's a bottom bracket that, in theory, is protected for life. But time will tell how these hold up. But on paper they seem good. Lots of sealing, and Wolftooth traditionally do some really good product. All right. Well, should we move to the member-only section of this episode?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Well, before we do, we're gonna chat about what's kind of been on Ronan's mind related to these products and hookless, and whether a year on from when he wrote pretty extensively about his worries of hookless, I guess we're going to talk about whether those worries still remain. But then after that, we've got Ask a Wrench. So again, you need to be a member of Escape Collective to listen to that segment. We've got Brad Copeland, race mechanic for Specialized Factory Racing now. He's back on. We've got some questions related to disc brake rub, unusual wear related to disc brakes and pads and rotors. We're also answering a question related to washing a bike with disc brakes and the processes there, and how to keep those brakes noise-free. And finally, we wrap up with a question, days to spare, leading into Unbound. We answer a question related to tire sizes versus going big on tire size versus peaking suspension, and sort of ponder that one. Plenty to listen to, but you will need to be a member. If you're on the free feed, then you can head to Escape Collective, can join up.
We're all the time trying to convince people to sign up. And presumably the reason listeners to this podcast who are not members do not sign up is either one, because it's just not financially viable at this point, and that's entirely fair. But the other one is because you have to pay for it to be a member. And what listeners might not realize is that actually paying for an Escape Collective membership may save you money in the long run if you happen to purchase 7 Mesh or Attacker or Cane Creek or Chapter 2 or Feedback or Hammerhead or Hunt or Map or Mavic or Arnott or Pactimo or POC or Ritzy or Silca or Velocio products, because being a member, we get nothing. Escape Collective gets nothing out of this. This is not an affiliate program. There is no commission for us.
Hopefully we get memberships out of it.
The only thing that we want to do with this is provide value for our members and get more members from it. But basically, all those brands I just listed, plus others, if you're an Escape Collective member, you get 20, sometimes 30% off their products. And so, if you're considering buying something expensive from one of these brands, that 20 or 30% off could immediately return you the value of your Escape Collective membership.
And then some for some of those products. But it's not an affiliate link thing. We buy whatever you want with those codes, but members get unique codes to use with those respective brands. So and more brands are getting added all the time, I think. I know you and I don't really have insight into what those brands are until they appear, but it's
no, we're not involved in it at all. But I would say, if anybody listening to this is from a brand and wants your name to be on that list or whatever, or wants to offer that to our members, you could get in touch with Dave or I, and we will put you in touch with Andy, who runs this whole thing.
Info at. Anyway, there's another good incentive, and one more is that we do have a lot of professional mechanics that tune in to Geek Warning. Love what you do, and because of that, from day one of Escape Collective, we understand salaries in the industry are not always excellent, and we've basically offered memberships to Escape Collective for what's basically our admin cost. So if you are a professional mechanic, you work as a mechanic in the bike industry, then head to Escape Collective, head to the FAQ section in the footer of the website, and you'll find a form to fill in that'll gain you access for it's a very, very minimal cost for an annual subscription. It's basically just to gain you access to what we're talking about. That's another one. All right, Ronan, let's head on behind the member wall. Let's talk about these hookless and all that.
This episode was produced, edited, and mixed by Will Jones at Red Bricks Media.